Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ask the Expert. We're so glad you joined us today. We actually did not make it onto Facebook because of some technical difficulties. So we really appreciate you joining us and watching later, either now through our YouTube feed or our Facebook pages or website. So thank you for clicking. We're going to share some really good information today with our friend and neighborhood plumbing expert, Tim Whistler. Tim is here today. Hi, Tim. Tim is...
Hello. Nice to be here.
Thank you. Tim's the owner and founder of Tim Whistler Plumbing and Gas Fitting. And he's here for our Ask the Expert today. And so by way of reminder, Ask the Expert was started in response to the pandemic because we were trying to figure out how to share really good information with our clients about locally based businesses. I feel very strongly about local referral-based businesses, as many of you know, if your clients or friends of mine. And a lot of times when we go through economic downturns, it is on the backs of small business and local and neighborhood businesses like Tim's that we survive tough economic times. And plus, having somebody you trust in your house is no small task, finding somebody you can trust. And I really do wholeheartedly trust Tim, and we're going to chat with him a little bit more later. But Ask the Expert is to bring great people like him to your attention and get questions answered for you and provide you with resources for the future. So again, we're so glad Tim could be here today. Tim and I met many years ago through his wife, and he was working for another plumbing company. And I just thought he was so good and communicative. I said, if you ever start your own company, let me know, because I would love to refer you and send you business. And lo and behold, after, let's see, he's been in the business, what, 20 years, Tim, right? And
correct.
Yeah, and you started the business 6 years ago, and you and Maria run the business. You and your wife Maria, with your President Pearl. That's their four-legged friend. So she's at the helm, as all of our dogs are, right? Anyway, he bills himself as your neighborhood plumber, and he really is. I've been at like neighborhood book group meetings, and people will be like, oh, I had Tim Whistler out to the house. And it's always nice to hear his praises being sung when he's not even anywhere nearby. So I feel really good about him. I'm so happy you could join us today, Tim. Tim is a master plumber and gas fitter, and you're going to hear a little bit more about what that means, because not everybody is aware of what a gas fitter is. Tim Whistler Plumbing and Gas Fitting serves Maryland, primarily closer in Montgomery County. And also they do a little bit of work in DC. They're licensed in DC, but because they're a smaller referral-based neighborhood company, they try to keep their radius fairly close. So they don't expand way out into Maryland or deep into DC. So again, Tim, we're so pleased you're with us today. I wanted to give a brief market update before we start our conversation with Tim. And I wanted to let you know that the strong market continues. We had total market activity throughout our region. Last week, we were up 31.5% compared to the same 7-day period in the same 7-day period the year before for the jurisdictions that we track. So once again, all of our jurisdictions posted increases. What's important to understand is that the pandemic has flipped the seasonality of this year's real estate market on its head. So the shutdown kind of crippled our spring market, and we're really experiencing our spring market now. It's funny because usually we're kind of quiet in July and August, and we were just gangbusters, and we've stayed that way because the inventory is so low. It's as low as it's been in a decade. Our rebound really began in mid-April, and contract activity reached its peak in mid-July, which is very odd, with just over 2,000 homes. And since that time, the number of ratified contracts has settled into about 1,800 a week. So we went from 2,000 a week to 1,800. And there are really no signs of slowing. I was dealing with multiple offers on a listing of mine last night and multiple offers on another one today. And for our sellers, we hope it continues. And for buyers, it's tough out there. And I hope you have a good realtor. So let's get into our conversation with Tim. Tim, again, thank you so much for coming today. I don't get plumbing questions every day the way that I might get calls for, hey, Ann, we want to put on the deck, or we want to remodel our kitchen. It seems like when I get a plumbing call, it's like a text message that's pretty much like a 911. and we have an emergency. Who can you recommend for this? And I wanted to talk with you a little bit about that, and also what people need to be thinking about when they're buying a home. So I know you're going to bring us a lot of good information, and why don't we just launch right in?
Thank you, Anne. I appreciate that. And yeah, I did kind of plan on talking a bit about the real estate angle of plumbing, you know, being a new home buyer, especially, you know, I think you mentioned the other day that people are doing these no inspection sales. Whether you have an home inspection or not, it's well worth your time to take a few extra minutes and just walk around the house, visually inspect, you know, the basement, the mechanical room, where you can see the pipes. You know, if you have older galvanized water piping, which is kind of a gray metal as opposed to copper, you know, that's from the 40s and 50s, and that's going to need to come out. That's a big expense. If you can see, you know, rusty parts on the steel drain lines or corrosion green spots on the copper lines, those are all signs of serious age and wear and tear, and are probably going to cost you some money down the line. Those are just some of the simpler things when you're walking through a house. If it's an older 40s, 50s model, like a lot of them are in our area, you know, you're going to want to test those little shutoff valves under the sinks. Give them a turn, make sure they're working, you know, make sure they're not leaking as soon as you touch them. These things are all going to come back to haunt you later if you don't understand that you're buying this the way it is and you're going to have to fix it, or you can take the opportunity to say, hey, you know, we need someone to take care of this before we're willing to pay for this house.
Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that, I mean, I think of the expenses people have, okay, they got to replace their electrical panel. That comes up on home inspections, right? Or you can see it when you're walking through. I know enough to say, yeah, you want to have an electrician look at this. But plumbing, if you have to replace that service entry pipe from the street to the house, I mean, that can be ridiculously expensive, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's that in particular, the water service from the street to the house. There's no way to test that. You know, you can't go there. Well, you can test it, but you can't see it. So if that's old original galvanized steel, or even they used to make them out of lead pipe, you know, that's going to be a big one to get replaced. We do, and pretty much every plumbing company will do a home inspection, you know, where we'll come through and do all of this kind of stuff for you. And, you know, that's probably a worthwhile investment. If you don't have a home inspector, or you're uncomfortable doing some of the stuff yourself, you know, we can always work that out, or whoever, but it's worth the extra time. The other big one that you mentioned is the water service that you just mentioned can be quite expensive. Really, unless it's leaking, there's almost no way to tell what's going to happen to it, whether it's going to last another 20 years or if it's going to start leaking tomorrow. So that one you don't have a lot of options on. You're kind of, if it's coming through the wall in the basement in copper pipe and it's working, you're pretty much going to, you know, have that going forward. Only if it starts to leak will there become a problem. The sewer system, on the other hand, the outgoing line, is something that you can test, and you can use a camera to videotape the sewer line. That is a huge one. We do a lot of pre-inspection sewer scopes for realtors. So that's something I would highly suggest to anybody who is, you know, using you as a realtor, or to anybody who's watching this and is thinking of purchasing a home. Include a pre-sale sewer scope. We'll go in with camera, go from the basement toilet or wherever, all the way out to the main WSSC sewer in the street. And there are, you know, we see all the time, tree roots will encroach on the sewer, you know, trying to get water. They'll completely block the sewer. I've seen a baby oak tree growing out of a floor drain in a basement.
Oh my.
That was a good one. Yeah.
Oh
we had a great one recently where they had put in a solar panel and they had run a 10-foot grounding spike for the solar panels. So they hammered the spike into the ground 10 feet, and went right through the middle of the sewer line. So this woman started getting huge backups every time she'd run laundry or take a shower. Bathroom would flood. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong. It's usually tree roots or a broken or cracked pipe. Some of these sewers were laid in the 30s, 40s, 50s. They've been down there a long time, and they can be, you know, $8,000 to $30,000 to replace. So for $500, it's worth doing.
Yeah, you're right. And you know what, guys? Sometimes people get inspections and they go, well, that was money thrown away. I just spent $800 on an inspection. I say, no, that was peace of mind. Because isn't it good that you spent $800 to know that it's in good shape and you're making a good investment? I mean, what did you want to hear? You spent $800, now you got to spend another $10,000? You know, like, spend the money and you'll feel much better, and you know what you need to budget for. So aren't a lot of those sewer pipes terracotta too?
Not so much terracotta. They're what we call fat cement, but they are basically cement. So there'll be steel pipe for the first 10, 15 feet out of the house, and then it'll be this huge cement pipe for the last 30 feet, maybe all the way to the sewer. And what happens with those is the running water just completely degrades the cement or erodes the cement. And so you get a very thin bottom, and sometimes the water will just break through, but more often the roots will work their way in there because now they've got easy access to the water. So if you're buying a house with a big tree out front, you would be very wise to run a sewer scope.
Because you can kind of guesstimate in your mind, right? Where the meter is in your house and where the street is. It's going to be pretty much a straight line, right?
Pretty much, yep. It's rare that it goes any other direction. So when these were all built, they dug a big ditch, they put the sewer at the bottom, they put the water line 3 or 4 feet down, and then they filled it in. So they're usually in the same trajectory from the house, right where the main shutoff for the house would be, out to where the the little metal plate in the yard, the WSSC curb cock would be. But
so when people are doing these scope inspections, they're getting the results right there, right? I mean, they know right then what's going on.
We will hand you the USB and you can make a copy, or we'll send it to you via Dropbox later. If you do a sewer scope, you want that video. So if you contract with anybody, make sure that they're going to give you a copy of the sewer scope, because that does not always happen.
Ah, good point. Okay. So everybody listening, get a copy. And plus, you should keep this stuff for your household files. I'm a big one on keeping your records. You know, this is important stuff. Tim, how often, like, let's say we got a good savvy buyer and they're able to negotiate, or maybe they did waive home inspection, but they do this like the first week they own the house. How often thereafter should you have your pipes scoped?
You know, it really depends on the condition we find it in. A lot of these are still in perfect condition. You know, cast iron has been down there 60 years and it'll look great. So if it's in perfect condition like that, I'd say maybe another 5 years, give it another scope. But we also find ones that are just completely just saturated and clogged with grease. So, you know, a homeowner, and, you know, everybody says, oh, I don't throw the grease out, but in the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, you know, there may have been people there who were, you know, pouring the grease from their eggs every morning, and that cumulative effect is pretty bad. So something like that, you know, you're going to have to try to clean it out and then see how bad it is. If it's compromised in any way, we're going to tell you the repair. So I don't think you need to scope it a lot. Every few years would be more than adequate, because if there's a problem, we're going to probably fix it for you.
You know, Tim, you just raised a really good question or point I wanted to make, and I was going to ask you about maintenance a little later in the conversation, but I think because of the direction we're going, I want to ask it now, if you don't mind. You raised a really good point. Let's say you just fried up 2 eggs, okay? I'm getting real practical on you. You used butter or whatever, some bacon grease. 2 eggs is not a lot, but over time, the cumulative effect of using hot water down. So really, for maintenance for people, would you recommend just wipe it out of the paper towel and throw the paper towel out? Is that?
Absolutely. You know, this is the big one with WSSC, you know, no grease in the pipes. Just the 3 Ps in the toilet, no flushable wipes, any of that stuff. Anything flushable, as we talked about, means if it says flushable, that means don't flush it. No matter what it says, throw that away properly. Don't put it down the drain. Toilet paper is the only thing that should go down the toilet. But when you talk about maintenance on the drain, especially if you have grease issues, you want to go with an enzyme drain cleaner, which is not the same thing as an acidic drain cleaner. Drano, is acid. It's not great for the pipes. It's terrible for the environment. You don't want to use it if you don't absolutely have to. But if you know you've got grease issues, you will want to use an enzyme drain cleaner on a regular basis. It also works only on a cumulative effect. So if you do think you have problems, or if you even have slow drains, start by buying an enzyme drain cleaner, using it as instructed, and see if that solves your problem there. It could be as simple as that, and you might not even need to bring a plumber in.
Okay, yeah, so I see Jennifer, thank you so much. Jennifer's put up a slide for us that shows some of these enzyme cleaners on the right-hand side. And Tim, you had told me something interesting, like if you've got a 3-level colonial, you want to start, a week or two, or the first couple applications or so, I should say a week or two, on the top floor, and then you add over time because it's cumulative, like you said, right?
Correct. Now, each brand is going to have a little, slightly different instructions. What I would suggest is to follow the instructions on the brand that you're using and stick with that brand. But we have had issues where people started to use an enzyme drain cleaner in all their drains at one time, and every night they would put some down. And then within a couple of weeks, there was a huge grease backup, because what this drain cleaner does is it breaks down the grease, which is sometimes very solid. And so what they had done was they'd broken down all the grease so much that it all kind of fell off the pipes and clogged the main sewer, and they had a main sewer backup. So it is supposed to be used regularly, and you do want to use it in each of the drains. But just like you say, you want to start on one floor, do that floor for a couple of weeks to get that grease broken up, and then continue to the next floor, etc.
And guys, this is the kind of thing Tim was explaining to me, that you don't want to do it one and done, and you don't want to do it a couple times a year. This is not changing the smoke detector batteries or whatever. This is, okay, every Tuesday I put my recycling out. Let me go use my enzyme drain cleaner. And it becomes, something you do like brushing your teeth. I mean, I know you're doing that a lot more often than every week, but it becomes something like that just becomes part of your regular household routine. Like you keep an eye on your gutters and downspouts. So that's how you need to use it. So like Tim says, you're not calling him with a bowling ball size, thing of grease that's now clogged everything up. I mean, great that it's come loose, but not the way we want it to happen. So that was really good, Tim. While we're on this graphic, every year I get a few people who call me, they call their realtor that their drain's backed up, and then they want a referral to plumber. And these are some of the foods you told me, like some really heavy duty garbage disposal could handle a lot, but some not as much. And if you want to be careful about certain foods, you might want to watch some of these, right?
Very much so. So that's a great graphic. Jennifer did a great job. That's actually the disposal pictured is probably the most common disposal in America. It's a 1/2 horsepower, generally known as the Badger 5, but it comes in a number of different brands and stickers. But if it looks like that, that's what it is. That is a steel blade disposal, 1/2 horsepower. It's good. It'll take care of most of your cut up vegetables, things like that, eggshells. I don't ever worry about those. But the items there are particularly problematic. The onion skins especially seem to get jammed along the side of the disposal, and it'll stop the grinding plate from turning. Same with the celery. The stringiness of the celery and some similar vegetables can cause trouble. Brussels sprouts can be a little difficult. The rice, potatoes, large amounts of beans, these heavy carbohydrates, just throw them away, put in a bag, put in the trash. You probably don't want to run these even through the disposal, because once they settle in the drain, they can become extremely hard to remove. Rice, potato especially, will form an almost cement-like I don't know, structure at the lower level of a pipe or at the bottom of a trap, just like in the other image there, the horseshoe trap. You know, if you run plenty of water and you grind continuously, you can use most disposals for most items, but there is some common sense involved. And if you do go with one of the larger disposals, the one pictured is about 1/2 horsepower steel blades. It's inexpensive, lasts 5 to 10 years, nothing wrong with it. But if you cook a lot, if you're a gourmet cook or you do a lot of vegetable prep, invest in a little bit better disposal. Get something with stainless steel blades and 3/4 horsepower or even 1 horsepower. That's a lot. 3/4 horsepower is an excellent disposal. But the stainless steel blades are much sharper. They'll stay sharper a lot longer. They won't rust. And that will last you 10, 15 years and will be a better product in the long run.
A really good investment and less calls to the plumber. I mean, you know, people go, oh, I don't know if I want to spend the extra $100. And it's like, you're going to pay that to have a great plumber show up at your door. And then you got, you know, or more. And then you got the regular costs and, you know, of the labor. So why not just spend it up front? Not that I want to take away service calls, Tim.
No, I'm a big believer in just doing things right. You know, we use high quality products. Everything we sell is, if not top of the line, you know, a name brand, well-respected product. So,
well, let's talk about that in terms of like new products and maybe energy savings or water savings. Like I'm thinking of tankless water heaters. I'm thinking of some of these toilets that are low flow. And you had some thoughts about the direction that the industry might be going, but if you could speak to some of those trends. I think people are increasingly curious about the tankless water heaters and increasingly annoyed with the low flow toilets, even though we all know that's probably where things are headed more and more.
Indeed they are. You know, those big giant toilets, and you know, we'll always run across some people who, oh, I don't want to replace my toilet. It's got that big tank on it. But there are other reasons to replace a toilet. Those tanks were 3+ gallons. Remember how you used to put a cinder block back there or some couple of bricks to displace some of the water so you didn't use so much water? So that all changed, you know, going on 20 years now. And they went down. The last 10 years or so, at least, has been 1.6 gallons per flush, 1.6 GPF. And you'll probably see that on 90% of the toilets out there. Well, that has changed. California is now 1.28 gallons per flush. And as California goes, so goes the country and on things like this. Most of the toilets now are 1.28 gallon. We still have a number of good brands available in 1.6 gallon. So, you know, if you're thinking of changing a toilet, you probably want to move on that. Yeah, they don't flush as well. It's simple math. They tried to design them better to, you know, make a faster flush. But I don't have a great cure for that. The one thing I will tell you is buy a decent toilet. Don't go to Home Depot and buy the $99 Home Depot brand toilet, because you're going to get what you pay for. If you buy a nice Toto, a nice Kohler, American Standard Cadet Pro is a good toilet. You know, there are good toilets out there that aren't going to break the bank, that are going to give you the best bang for your buck, so to speak.
What a different conversation, right?
Right. Not everybody wants to talk about their toilets. But I'll segue, if that's okay, into what you're talking about, the tankless water heaters. With a slight tangent, when you're talking about water savings, there's really only so much you can do in plumbing. The number one way to save water is to use less water. So if you need to use a lot of water and you're environmentally conscious, you can get smaller aerators for your kitchen sink. Right now, the average kitchen sink, if I'm not mistaken, is 2.2 gallons per minute. I believe shower heads are 2.2, and I think the kitchen sink is 1.8. I may be wrong on those numbers, but they're still pretty good flow. You can change those aerators out for a lower flow aerator that will hold back more water and only allow a smaller amount of water through. So if you are concerned, that's really your best bet. If you can't use less, then try to have less coming to the faucets. The only other way that you can really save energy is in the move over to the water appliances that you're using, like a dishwasher, all the new lower water resource washing machines, high efficiency washing machines. Those have done very well. You get a great wash and use a lot less water. So that's a great appliance that you can switch to. And then when you move to the water heaters, you are really looking more at a savings in gas usage. You're not going to save a lot of water with the water heater. It's really, you're going to use the same amount of hot water. Where you get your energy savings with the water heater is in the gas usage. So most people have an old natural draft water heater that went up into the brick chimney and the gases went out the top of the chimney. So we still install a lot of those. They're still very popular. But if you are looking to do some actual energy savings, you can switch to a tankless water heater. So a tankless water heater will give you endless hot water. You can leave it on for a week and you'll still have hot water. Your gas bill will be astronomical, but you'll have hot water. And that's really the greatest plumbing improvement on them. The gas usage is less over time because you're flash heating the water as it comes through and you're not continually heating this tank up like an old tank. So that's where the energy efficiency comes in with the tankless water heater. They are not cheap. To retrofit them into these older homes can be quite expensive. It really is a case-by-case situation. We've been doing a lot of virtual estimates. So sometimes we can walk through just camera in hand, just like this, and see what we need to see. With a tankless, it's sometimes a little bit harder. There are more details. If you look at the image here, that is an old gas heater before, obviously in terrible condition. And the tankless here, you see the two white pipes coming out the top of the tankless water heater. Those go to the exterior of the house. And that can be the biggest challenge with the tankless water heater. Those have to go to the exterior, 18 inches above grade, a foot away from any operable window or door. So there's very stringent codes that have to be followed. If your basement is completely below ground, I can tell you now, it's going to be difficult to put a tankless water heater in there. Not impossible, but it'll cost you a little more.
If it's completely below grade?
Correct, because we have to come up above grade in order to exhaust the tankless water heater. We've got to be, a foot and a half, 2 feet above grade. And there are ways to make that work. We can do a small window well where we come out. We've had some people where we've brought the pipe up through the first floor and out the side wall there. So there's always a way to make it happen. But fair warning, some of them are going to be more expensive than others, and it really is a case-by-case situation. We're always happy to come take a look.
Tim, that was really good information, and I think people are curious about this because for years, home inspectors used to kind of poo-poo the tankless hot water heaters, and I think the technology hadn't gotten to where some of those inspectors felt like it was worth the investment, but I think it's come a long way since then. So folks listening, if you have questions, I encourage you to call Tim. I want to hit on a couple more topics, and I know we're starting to run tight on time. One thing I want to ask real quick, I meant to ask during maintenance, Tim, when people are leaving on a trip and they decide to turn off their water, what do they need to know about leaving the hot water heater on? In other words, about burning it up.
So most water heaters, the standard natural draft type that, the tank type water heaters or other tank type water heaters are going to have a dial at the bottom that'll say, some of them even say vacation or low, medium, high, or 1 star up to 5 stars for the hottest setting. Just turn your setting down. Turn your setting down to the lowest setting. That way your water's gonna, when you get home, you'll turn it back up, it'll come right back on. That would certainly be my advice if you're gonna leave for more than, 4 or 5 days, something like that. Because that whole time you're using gas to keep that water hot.
And occasionally we've had a client burn up a hot water heater.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they've been on a long, away, long European trip or something. And I thought, I want to remind people, if you're going to do that, it's a great thought. So your pipes don't, they're worried about their pipes bursting for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
But then you don't want to have another problem, right? So,
it's tough to watch out for every possibility. If you're going away for a week or two, I would set it on pilot. If you're going away for more than 2 weeks, I'd shut the water down. You make sure that you're not affecting your heating system. Obviously, if it's the winter, you want everything to stay warm. But I have a number of customers who I know will take vacations in the winter, and they just shut the water off. If something leaks, if your water heater leaks, at least you only lose 50 gallons instead of it just, continuing to pour into the house for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So those are my opinions. People all have different ideas on.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention that because I think we've had a couple of questions on that. And then, Tim, sensors. Let's talk about sensors, because you and I both have a theory that instead of the insurance company paying out thousands of dollars after you have a flood in your house, maybe in the future, like with having a home sprinkler system or having a house that's near a fire hydrant or having a certain kind of smoke detector in your house, you get discounts on your insurance. I spoke with somebody at Liberty Mutual. Right now, they're not offering discounts if you have one of these sensor features. However, you can still save yourself a ton of money and hassle by having these. And I think in the future, there's going to be more of a movement. Like you said, probably California will do it first and it'll work its way east. But could you talk a little bit about the sensor systems, both the big systems and the little ones, just so people know the difference?
Absolutely. So these are great products. Most people by now should have heard of them to some extent. They've been around for a good 10 years. They started off with individual sensors. So for your water heater was a very popular one that we still sell fairly often. You put a electronic solenoid on the inlet of the water heater and a special sensor on the floor. Then if water hits that sensor, it turns off the inlet to the water heater. So again, you could lose your 50 gallons in the heater, but the water is turned off. You're not going to continue to have water pouring into your house. Then they made individual ones for washing machine hoses, even for toilet lines, for regular supply lines. And finally, kind of a natural evolution, they started making whole house sensors, which really seemed to be the best of the ideas. The whole house sensor pictured here is the Moen Flow, which is a great unit. It's relatively inexpensive at around $500, give or take, for the basic unit. Installation for us is generally around $1,000. Again, that really depends on, situationally, sometimes less, sometimes more. But this unit uses a sensor system as well as a Wi-Fi connection that will tell you if you're at work, boom, the sensor at your water heater went off. We shut down the water to the house. You know what's happening. When you get home, you're ready to deal with it. These are fantastic ideas. And one of the things that really just kind of bugs me is we've had a number of homes who are badly flooded, and then the insurance company would pay for us to install one of these. So it was a real, bolt in the door after the barn after the horses bolted. And I just would love to see the insurance companies start to be a little more proactive about installing these. I would even suggest any customer, call your own insurance company. Maybe Liberty Mutual currently doesn't do that, but maybe some other companies are willing to help you with an installation of one of these products. There's a number of other brands. The key component here being, especially in this day and age, you want them to be Wi-Fi enabled. A lot of them work with Alexa and other home monitoring systems. A number of them require a subscription. I believe the Mow & Flow is one that does not require a subscription, even though they're $2 or $3 a week. You know how that goes. They'll up it in a year or two. But do your due diligence. Read your reviews. Find the one that you think works best for you. Honeywell makes another excellent system. Buy one from a name brand, Honeywell, Moen. Just like everything else, you get what you pay for. This is a real investment in your home and the future of your property. So I would say they're a great idea and be well worth every penny.
And I really appreciate you having those graphics up there, Jennifer. Some of those facts are startling, like water damage 5 times more likely than theft.
Wow.
So detects as little as 1 drop per minute. I mean, this seems like a really good investment. And I agree, Tim, we should all call our insurance companies and ask. And for my clients and friends watching, if I find out that there are insurers that do that, I'll let you know. Tim, let's talk about gas fitting before we wrap up. I know we're running long, but I want to cover that because not every plumber does gas fitting and not every plumber is Tim Whistler. So let's hear a little bit about you. I know you're a master gas fitter in addition to being a master plumber.
Yes, we do a lot of gas work. I've been doing gas fitting the whole time I've been working in plumbing, 17 out of 20 years of it. So gas fitting really is just what it sounds like, working with natural gas or propane gas to install gas appliances. We don't do a lot of propane around here, but of course we could if, we're happy to do it. We do a lot of gas fireplace work. This time of year now, October 20th, we are deep going into gas fireplace work. So we will be doing installations of units like the ones pictured here. We do a lot of gas logs, which are just a little bit smaller version of these that sit in the fireplace. The other gas fitting things that are more common, if you have an electric stove in the home, we'll run a gas line, putting in generators, gas pool heaters, pretty much any gas appliance, but we tend to focus a lot on fireplaces, among others. The gas is a little bit misunderstood. You do have a finite amount of gas going to your home. So you can't just say, I'm going to put in a new tankless water heater and 2 fireplaces because you're not going to have enough gas. So if you're considering a gas project or gas related project, have us come out, have somebody come out who knows what they're doing. You can go out there with there's all kinds of load charts and BTU length of run charts. This stuff all has to be done exactly right. We're one of a number of companies that do it. I'd just say if you are at all interested in a gas product, do your research, do your diligence, get your facts up front, have us come out, know what you're buying, and we'll take care of it from there.
And Tim, linking this back to something you started with, which was real estate, occasionally we show houses. I looked at one this week and they said, everything inside was electric. And they said, but gas is available at the street. If that's something where a buyer is saying, oh gosh, how much is that going to run me? They're trying to figure out if they can waive home inspection or if they want to, and how much they need a budget for things. Is that something that you could give a pretty good estimate of, or do you need to actually physically see it to, even if it's a range, like that's going to run you $800 to $1,200 or whatever?
Yeah, I can give you a fairly quick idea of what it's going to take. First and foremost, there's a great website app on the Washington Gas website that tells you if there's gas in your area. You put in your address, it says, yep, there's gas nearby, great. It's going to cost you anywhere from $5 to $15 grand for them to run the gas line from the street to your house.
Okay.
At that point, remember, you now have to change all of your appliances from gas appliances or from electric to gas appliances. So that's going to be another probably 10 grand to 15 grand for furnace, water heater, stove.
So this is not the house you're going to stay in for 2 or 3 years.
No, it's a big investment. We've done this numerous times. Yeah. And again, this is one where you are going to want to work with a contractor. You can start the process with Washington Gas online and ask them, can we get gas? And then the next thing they're going to tell you is who's the gas fitter you're working with. So we are happy to help with that also.
Tim, this has been such a good educational conversation. I'm kind of glad that we had trouble because we didn't have time for questions if anybody had any on Facebook, but I'm happy because I had so many of my own. So
Great.
I would have hogged up the time anyway. Tim, thanks for joining us. This was really, really good. Here's Tim's contact information. If you all have any questions, he and Maria are really wonderful to work with. We've referred a lot of our clients, and I can honestly say I have just gotten glowing reviews, glowing for the last 6 years. And we, used them at my parents' house, my community, my church. So anyway, I think the world of Tim and Maria. And as you see, he's a very conversant contractor who's happy to talk things through with you so you can make an educated and informed decision, which is what this is really all about. So there's his contact info. If at any time you want to reach out to me with a question or you've misplaced information, of course, you can certainly do that. Obviously, I'm saying that and it's here on the screen, but I always want you to know you can reach out to me and I'm happy to connect you. Tim, thank you again for being here today. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate having a good vendor we can call on. And go ahead. I'm sorry. Were you going to say something?
No, thank you. It's been a pleasure. We want to work with people who are informed and understand what they're getting for their money. So I really appreciate your giving me the opportunity. And a big thanks to Jennifer also for the excellent graphics. So thank you.
She does good work. Thank you, Jennifer. And also, I just wanted to say, if any of you watching want to consult on buying or selling, or you have an idea or an area you're interested in, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. We also welcome your referrals. And I'm licensed and working by referral in close in Northern Virginia, Montgomery County, Maryland, and I've got partners across the river in DC. So I say across the river when I'm in Virginia. I'm actually doing this from my home office, so there is no river to cross to get into DC. But thank you for watching. We'll be bringing you another great expert in a couple of weeks. And actually, Jennifer, is that the day we're taking a break because the election? Let me see. Yeah, we're going to be back in 3 weeks. We figure people might not be interested in watching on the 3rd, at least not watching us. I think there'll be plenty interested in watching. So we'll see you the week after that, which is the week of November 10th. And thanks for tuning in today.